Amy Thurman back again with day 57 of 100 Days, 100 Emotions. Today we're talking about grief, and this is one that you don't want to miss. If you or anyone you know, I can already tell you right now, if you or anyone you know is dealing with grief, send this to them. Watch, pay attention. It's going to be worth it. I can already tell you it's going to be worth it. I'm already been crying already, y'all. If you have seen any of these or want to catch the others, go to hashtag 100 days, 100 emotions. That's the numerical number 100, streaming live on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube. If you would like to be a special guest, I would love to have you on. I can plug you in. We can find an emotion that works for you. I have something special in store for my guests that I have not announced yet. So you'll want to be a part of that for sure. Okay, let's get into this. Today we're talking about grief, and oh my goodness, I am so excited to have my good friend back again, Dr. Tanya English, here to share her story about grief. Thank you so much for being here, Tanya.
Oh, I'm happy to be here with you, Amy. It's very inspiring what you're doing.
Thank you so much. Oh my goodness, Dr. Tanya and I resonate on so many levels. Like that's why I was crying beforehand. I'm like just being around in her presence, it's just like, oh, it hits me so deeply. So I can't wait to get into this. I am anticipating it. Oh, so good. So I want to
Yeah,
start.
crying is cleansing, just so you know. Okay.
Right. And so
Crying is cleansing, so
if the
it's okay.
tears flow, they flow, and it's just going to be part of my cleansing here because I'm dealing with a lot of grief too still. You'll know that I like to start with a piece of text that helps us talk about what grief is. And so let's just hop into that. It's a natural response to loss, including the death of a loved one, the end of a significant relationship, the loss of a job, a major life change, or the diagnosis of a serious illness. It can encompass so many more things, but these are just a few of the things that cause us to feel grief. And the thing is that we all feel it. Like it's a natural part of life, feeling grief. It's there for a reason. Our body allows us to feel grief for a reason. And like Tanya said, to help us cleanse, to bring the tears, to help us cleanse. But as I was sharing with her beforehand, I think a lot of us get stuck in that and we
Mm.
don't really know how to move past it, move through it, or see the other side of things because it can be so heavy and it can weigh on us and it can affect our whole lives. And so I would love for you to share your experience with grief and what it has taught you and just all the things. So just take it away, Dr. Tanya.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here with you. You know, one of the things that there's been many things that have caused grief in my life. The major thing that I talk about is the stillbirth of our first child together, my husband Ed and I. Um, and this kind of grief where it makes you wonder, like, what did I do? How did this happen? I was at the time finishing up chiropractic college. I had been a massage therapist and had gone to chiropractic college and was finishing up, and we had this beautiful pregnancy. And at the end, things did not work out. And we were trying to have the baby at home. Hundreds of babies are born at home, thousands and millions over years and years. And something happened that caused us to go to the hospital. And when we were there, we were immediately put on ultrasound and we could see that his heart wasn't moving and that he had passed already. And, for me, I was not brought up in a religious household, but I did end up going to Quaker school and later became Quaker, Religious Society of Friends. Quaker's our nickname. So uh, that's always the way that I start, is because there's that of God in every person. That's the only uh, dogma of Quakerism there, because there's no dogma, there's no uh, Nicene Creed or anything that we have to recite, but we do believe that there's that of God in every person. And so when we're dealing with other people, we're dealing with that of God within them. And so I have a personal relationship with God, and I was like, okay, so I've been saying to people, everything happens to the highest good. Like, why is this good?
Mm-hmm.
How could there be any good out of this? This is a
Yeah.
tragedy. And, you can look at things and judge them bad or good, bad or good, bad or good. But you know what? That's really exhausting. And so part of my decision was to always look for the good. Seek and you'll find. What are you looking for? So I'm looking for the good,
Mm-hmm.
looking for the good. And the first thing that I saw that was good was that my husband was right there with me, nurturing me, loving me, supporting me, helping me heal. He was going through it too. And yet there was all this love poured into me.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he helped me breathe and not die because I think they over medicated me.
Oh
And I
gosh.
would exhale and he'd say, okay, okay, honey, breathe in. And I'd be like, oh, okay. And then I'd
Wow.
exhale and I wouldn't breathe. So he's keeping me alive. And after we got home and with no baby, our neighbor
Mm-hmm.
came over and she said, where's the baby? And I said, this is the hardest thing. The baby didn't make it. And to watch people's faces fall and
Yeah.
just go immediately into grief, to watch that in front of you over and over again, it's exhausting. And it's also like refreshes it every time.
Yeah.
So, I'm talking about this now in this way. That was almost 30 years ago. So I just want to remind you that time is not the healer of wounds. Okay. It's not time that healed my wounds. It was my connection to source energy that healed the wounds. And my decision to allow more of source God energy in. I'm going to allow more of God in because I don't know how to deal with this. I don't, I started going, well, what if, okay, so the baby died. So what if Ed dies? So what if my parents die? So what if my sister dies? So what if, you go into all these what ifs and they don't help. They just make you feel worse. So when you're in grief, especially fresh grief, I think it's really important to not be so quick to blame and shame,
Mm-hmm.
especially yourself. Because you know what? People wanted to blame my midwives. And I'm like, well, I hired them. So you're really blaming me, right? So it's really important not to go, I didn't blame them. You know what? People die. And we had to explain this to two little girls, my bonus daughters from
Mm-hmm.
Ed's previous relationship. And I said, people die. We're all going to do it. It's not that bad. You can think of it as a terrible thing or not. How about not? How about it's just
Yeah.
something everybody does? And some people die when they're little, and some people die when they're old, and some people die when they're sick. Some people die
Mm-hmm.
from an accident. Some people, and I'm not saying that you don't seek justice in something that's unjustified, basically, but
Right.
that you don't live there. And for some people, have you ever seen one of those Oprah shows where she has the person on that's forgiven the person for the heinous crime that they committed? And
Mm.
everybody's like, how did you do that? How did you forgive? Well,
Yeah.
we're called to forgive. We're called to do that. That's our job, basically. And so who do I forgive? I forgave the midwives. It was not their thing. I mean, I could have stayed there, but that would have kept me in anger and upset and all the negative feelings that I just don't want to have. Not that I don't want to acknowledge them, because the way that we release these negative feelings is we acknowledge them to release them. So when I'm doing emotional freedom technique with people and we're tapping on these negative feelings, it's not because we're putting them in, it's because we're letting them out.
Yeah.
So I feel so guilty about this. I feel so guilty. How can I ever change this feeling of shame? I'm so ashamed. I'm so guilty. Tapping on those things and calling them out, like, releases their power that they've had over you. That's just one of the techniques I do that helps release those subconscious emotional memories that are keeping your physiology going. So Let me just explain that a little bit because it's a
Sure.
lot of big words.
Yeah.
And to put them together is kind of weird, but you have things that happen to you with intense emotion or they happen chronically over and over again. Those things are memorized, especially intense emotion, because when you go into fight or flight, your body wants to survive. Your body, mind, spirit. I'll say body for short, but it's always body, mind, spirit. You want to survive. There's that survival instinct. And what happens is you go into that situation and you might be in fear, which causes your body to go into fight or flight or freeze response. I'm sure this happened to you, right? You went into fight or flight or freeze. And what happens is your body constricts, your heart rate goes up, your blood pressure goes up, you might lose bladder control, your eyes dilate. This all happens when you're in fear or shock. That's the freeze part. And if you're stuck in shock, that's what we call PTSD. But we can get out of that. And there's simple things that we do to get out of that very quickly. That's why EMT and emergency workers have a 10-year lower life expectancy, because staying in fight or flight takes years off your life.
Wow.
So what we want to do is something really simple called 4-count breathing. And I'll just show you really quickly, and you can do it with me. We're going to breathe in for 4, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and hold it out for 4. So exhale all your breath out if you're watching this, and breathe in 1, through your nose, 2, 3, 4. Hold it in 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale through your nose, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it out, 1, 2, 3, 4. Breathe normally. Calms you right down, right?
It does.
Because you're taking over a subconscious thing that your body does, breathing. You don't have to think about it. Your body will just breathe. But now you've taken it over and you've controlled it in such a way that it brings you back to rest, digest, and heal. Notice the heal on the end. You can't do that when you're in fight or flight. When you're in fight or flight, your immune system shuts off, your digestion shuts off, and all the blood goes to your large muscle groups, your legs and your arms, so you can run away or stay and fight, or it all goes out to the periphery and you go into shock. You might faint. All of these things happen when you're in fight or flight. Now, imagine that whole scenario that I just described becomes such a pattern that it becomes subconscious. Now you don't even realize it's happening because it's underneath your consciousness. Just like we were talking about before, what do you think about when you're driving to the store to get something at the grocery store? Do you think about driving or do you think about what you're going to get? Think about what you're going to get at the store, because driving has now become subconscious. It's a pattern that you keep doing over and over again, so you know how to do it. That's what happens to this survival fight or flight. It becomes subconscious and it can get triggered. So that physical sensation that you have of being in fight or flight becomes subconscious and it can get triggered. So let's say you were a kid playing and you fell off your bike because a red car came near you and almost sideswiped you and you fell over on your bike. Every time you see a red car, your body goes into fight or flight.
It makes a connection.
You've memorized it. Your body doesn't want you to die. It says red cars are equal fight or flight response. That's danger. It's like this. If you're walking through the woods and you see a stick on the ground that looks like a snake, you will jump back from it before you realize it's a stick. Your instinct is to stay away from danger. It's subconscious. And then you go, oh, it's just a stick. It's not a snake.
Yeah.
What part of your brain is working then? The lower part of your brain. because it knows, oh, snake may be dangerous. Snake physical looking like a thing that might be a snake, right?
Right, right. When
So
as you're talking through all this, I'm thinking, I feel like, at least with my experience with grief, that, and I may have said this already, I can't remember, that we hold on to it because it feels like we're holding on to a piece of whatever it is we've lost. And I know that's my experience with it, that
yeah,
for so many years, I was telling Tanya before, like, I lost a person.
yes. Yes, because of the accident and the brain trauma that happened, the person that you used to be is no longer is no longer there. I'm voicing this for you, Amy, so you can
Thank you.
deal with it right now, because what happens is the grief that you're feeling over that person that you lost, that's so real. I mean, come on. Are you going to feel sad? Sure. There, you have all the feelings. We all do. It's when we suppress them, they come out in a different way. They come out in a way we don't want.
Yeah, that's so
So
true. I
pressing your feelings down won't work, folks. Don't, it does not
that
work.
that's one of the whole reasons for this series, is to help us understand that it's natural and normal to let them come to the surface, to feel them, so that we can
Absolutely.
heal. But I completely lost who I was before. I didn't really like her. Honestly, I love this person I am now. But even though I didn't really like that person, she helped me be the person I am now. And for some reason, I tried to hold on to her for such a long time. And it wasn't really until I allowed her to go, I allowed myself to just be who I am now,
Yeah.
and let that version of me be what she was. That's what I needed during that time. The person I am is who I need right now. But
Mhm.
when I allowed myself to kind of let her go and live into this excuse me, life I am now, it's like a whole new, like I had this, it's like a burden was just lifted off my shoulders, that I stopped trying to hold on. I just allowed it to be. And it was so freeing.
I love
So
that you're saying
freeing.
allowing, 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 because we make the decision to allow something to
Yes.
happen in our lives. It's not some magical thing that happens. You can absolutely have magical things happen. And I really am so grateful for your vulnerability, Amy, because vulnerable doesn't mean weak. Vulnerability is strength. I know that sounds weird, but it's true. When you can be vulnerable and share with people your actual feelings, that's how relationships get built. You don't build a relationship by holding it all in and pretending to be the strong person. Oh, that's not going to work.
Right.
That's the way to destroy relationships. But here's the thing with grief, it's change. It's very quick change a lot of the time. Sometimes it happens over a period of time. You know, if someone's, you know, passing from a terminal illness, it can take a long time for that to take place, and the grief is fresh all the time. But it can also be just a very quick change. It's where your reality changes. And guess what? There's nothing in the world that's certain but change.
Yes.
So when you get more and more comfortable with change, you're much better equipped to handle life in all its forms, because change is the one thing you can count on. Things are going to change.
Absolutely.
And when
Absolutely.
you try to keep them the same and you try to hold yourself back from feeling your feelings, well, that's how human beings experience the world. You experience it through how you feel about it. A thought doesn't change your physiology and shouldn't, but a feeling changes your physiology. I use
Mm.
a chart, and I'll show you. There's a chart right there on my wall. It has 140 feelings on it. The upside down apple, you may not be able to see it. It was an upside down apple
Yeah.
that's all fear based. And the right side up apple is all love, because fear and love are the opposites, not love and hate.
Right.
Fear and love. You can walk in fear, you can walk in love. Pick every day, every minute
You
sometimes.
get you can't walk in both together.
Mm-mm.
No.
And what
So,
happens is you have to make a decision for yourself. Am I going to walk in fear or walk in love? And those 140 feelings on that chart, you've had every single one of them. Every one of them.
Yeah.
And the reason why is because you're a human being in this world, not a human doing, a human being. And
Love
so you're
that.
going to experience the world and you're going to have feelings about it. And each one of those feelings is like putting on a different suit of physiology. So the physiology that you have when you're ecstatic is different from the physiology you have when you have regret.
Mm-hmm.
Different physiology.
Yeah.
Happiness is a little bit different than bliss. Bliss is a little more up there, and
Mm-hmm.
happiness is like right here, right? I mean, you can feel it when you think about it.
Yeah.
And when you allow yourself to feel the feelings and release them, then you're free. There's a lot of grief in the world. We're seeing that right now play out in Israel and Gaza.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing the amount of fear people live with, the amount of pressure that they have on them, the amount of anger that there is at the injustice, the amount of violence that's committed in the name of justice. It's terrifying. People are being taken hostage and killed, and they're at a music festival. Imagine that happening here. That's what's happening.
Wow. Mm.
So we can definitely be in grief about something happening overseas that seems completely unjustified, and there's no justification for that kind of violence happening, or any violence really, in my
Right.
estimation. There's no justification for it. I know people will argue with me about that, but I'm not interested in arguing about that. What I'm interested in is people being able to experience their feelings and let them go, because that's where healing happens.
Yeah.
And if people don't feel heard, let me tell you, they will go to extreme measures to make themselves heard. That's what we're seeing.
Exactly. And I love what you said about excuse me. My son and I had this conversation just the other day. He's 23, and we were talking about how feelings are intended to come to us to send a message and then to keep going, and they kind of dissipate. If we will sit with them and allow ourselves to feel them, they will dissipate, but we end up, they come to us and we grab them and we hold on to them, and
Yes.
they stay with us and they get stuck, and so they don't dissipate, and that causes so many problems. But it can be healing if we allow them to come, do their job, and then travel and then move on like they're supposed to.
Yeah. And when you've been stuck in that for a long time, that's why I use emotional freedom technique. That's why I use
Yes.
bioenergetic synchronization technique. We're clearing up the subconscious emotions, because that's what's causing our body's physiology. Period. End of sentence. That's what
Yeah.
causes it, is feelings that are suppressed. People say, well, what about germs? Well, really, if your body was doing what it's supposed to do and it wasn't interfered with, that would not be a problem for you, because you have an immune system that takes care of everything for you. But you have
Right.
to strengthen it by not being in fight or flight. Because remember when I said that the subconscious, you can go into fight or flight subconsciously, and it shuts off your immune system and your digestion, because you don't need to digest your tuna sandwich when a tiger's running after you.
Right.
So
Yeah.
every time you take yourself out of fight or flight and into rest, digest, and heal, you're boosting your immune system every time. Even that little tapping we just did, tap right here. I'm so angry about this situation. It's so unfair. These people are so unfair. And I feel so angry and upset. And they should have read a book about how to raise kids, because they didn't even think about me and all of these things that I get so angry about with the people who raised me, whatever it is. I'm just using that as an example for people here.
Right.
Whatever it is, get those feelings out. And, that's why I work one on one with people, because we can get really deep into what happened for them. And here's the thing, you're never going to melt down because of your feelings. Everybody's afraid. My molecules will fly apart if I feel this. No, you won't come back from it ever. No, that's not true either. You will come back and you won't relive it. It's not happening now. It only feels like it's happening now. It's not actually happening now. So you're not like actually reliving the experience. You're dealing with the emotions of the experience. You will not fly apart. You won't melt. You won't explode. You won't go to another place and never come back. You will. But you have to be doing that with somebody who knows what they're doing too.
Yeah.
The assistance
Yeah.
is important because here's the thing. We are not meant to do this by ourselves. We are not meant to heal alone. We are
Yeah.
meant to have assistance. We are meant to have someone come alongside. Wherever two or more are gathered, there I am also.
Yeah.
Saying that, it's
Yeah.
important for you to remember that some of those things that you've heard all your life, if you raised that way, they're true. It's the truth. You're not meant to do this by yourself. You're
It's
meant to
so
have
true.
assistance. You're meant to
I
have somebody come alongside and help you and hold
it's
space for you to heal.
Yes, and it reminds me of, before we move on, I want to get this in, that I don't know, Tanya, if you know, I'm writing a book. I'm putting my story into a book, and
Mm-hmm.
the process of putting it in the book is, that grief is coming up. It's not like rising up, it's like flooding up, because I've told my story I don't know how many times,
Yeah.
but in the book it's details of what actually happened and how I felt and all the things I had to go through to get where I am. And it's so hard. It's so hard. Like I literally have to stop and recover from the
Yes.
writing.
Yes.
But when you said we need help, that's exactly what happened. I was like, okay, to my therapist, we're increasing my visits. Like I was doing just monthly visits. I'm like,
No.
nope. While I'm working on this book, we're doing weekly visits,
Yep.
because the grief is so much harder than I expect it to be in this book. But I reached out for help because I have that available, and I know that that's what I need to do.
Absolutely. You are, it's very hard for you to see what's going on the outside of you when you're in there. You can't see it. So somebody like me or your therapist can say, okay, so did you hear what you just said? That's significant. You know, the grief is burdensome. Let your burden down. Here's the thing, people don't think, I've heard this so many times. Well, you'll always be in grief. You know what? I'm not in grief about my son, my baby. Is it sad sometimes? Do I still have a tear now and then? Sure. But I'm not in grief about it, because there's so much good that came out of his experience here. 9 months he got his job done.
Mm.
He was very efficient. That's the way I look at it. Now,
Yeah.
other people might not look at it that way, but that's the way I look at it. He was very efficient. He melded my husband and I together forever,
Mm.
because I watched somebody who I mean, we were newly married, and I watched him deal with something that's supposed to be the worst thing that can ever happen, losing a child. And I watched the way he was, and he was exactly who I thought he was. He
Mm.
was a sensitive, loving, nurturing, caring person. A lot of people don't get to see that side of their spouse. They don't get to see
It's
that.
so beautiful.
And
So
and the
beautiful.
people around us, we were watching, and I'm like, um, a meeting at the hospital afterwards, a grief, you know, group, and there was people in there that had been in there for years, years and years.
Mm.
There was one woman that was taking her toddler to her baby's grave and throwing herself on the grave in front of her child. What do you think
Oh,
that did to that
goodness.
toddler? You know, like,
Wow.
folks, you do not have to stay there, and you are not
Yeah.
betraying your loved one by moving on with your life. And I know
Yes.
that you know that, and you know those words, but I'm telling you, when you detach yourself from all of that negativity, when you release it and let it go, then you can start reaping what is the blessing here. Because I'm a big believer that however big the tragedy is, there's even bigger blessings on the other side of it.
Mm. Oh,
And that
that's so good.
every deep well of tragedy is also a well for blessings to flow out of. And even though that was 30 years ago, in February, no, in April, it'll be 30 years. Even though it was 30 years ago, I'm still receiving blessings from that experience.
Mm.
I mean, come on.
I
Don't
feel like,
stop it.
right. I feel like
Being there.
people may be thinking, but what good can come out of what I have been through or what has happened to me? And I feel like you said it earlier. What are you looking for? Like, there is good, there is beauty in it if we look and if we find, I mean, if we look for it. But
Seek
most of
and
the
you'll
time,
find
we're
is
not
not a
looking for
lie.
that,
What are
right?
you
We're not
looking
looking
for?
for that. So that's not what we're finding. So,
Yeah.
yes,
You'll
look
find,
for that.
oh, if you're looking for
Yes.
negative and upset and ways to stay in that message of this is so unfair and I hate everything about that, right? You could stay there.
Yeah,
Absolutely, you could stay
absolutely.
there. Is
Yeah.
that where you want to be? I'd rather look for the
Right.
good. So I had a big light bulb moment, even through all the drugs that they gave me, laying there in the hospital bed. I went, this is happening for a reason.
Hmm.
This is a terrible thing and it's happening for a reason. And I better pay attention to what's going on here because I'm going to be able to help other people because of this. I
Yes.
knew then I wasn't a child. I was 33 years old.
Hmm.
Now you know how old I am.
Yeah.
I was 33 years old when this happened. Believe me, the significance of that was not lost on me, being 33.
Yeah. I feel like, and I had a very similar in laying in that bed wanting to die. All of a sudden, if I try to get better, maybe I can use my experience to help other people. Like, it's almost like a responsibility that we've been given
Yeah, it's a
to,
big deal. What's happening is a big
yes,
deal. This is
yes,
this is the 2x4 of God's reality hitting me in the head going, are you paying attention now? Like
yeah.
what you're up to is something big. We had foreshadow things happen before this happened too. I
Hmm.
mean, like weird stuff. We had
Wow.
things, bizarre things happen after to let us know everything's okay. One of the things that happened like the week after we got home from the hospital, which is just a few blocks away, and I think it was like within 3 days, we were both standing in the living room of our apartment and there are windows that went all the way across and a blue balloon went floating by the windows, not up, floating horizontally across all the windows. And I looked at Ed and I said, "Did you see that?"
Wow.
We went outside to see if there was a party or something going on. Nothing going on.
Hmm.
And I was like, I just feel like that was our sign that everything's okay.
Yeah.
Ed did too. And there were things
Hmm.
like that. Like I was in the shower at one point and I started to faint and he knew something was wrong and came in and caught me. Like,
Wow.
how did that happen? You know, and
Yeah.
so sometimes I kind of miss that experience of being so full and so taken care of. And I remember this is so amazing. I remember being at the Mississippi Valley Blues Fest and being in the tent stage with the Blind Boys of Alabama. And I had a healing like I've never had before. I mean,
Hmm.
it was big. It felt like waves and waves of love washing through me, over me, all around me. I never felt like that much love in the world in my life. I mean, it was significant. I left
Wow.
there different than when I went in. Ed had been at a different stage. We met in between, and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm
I'm real good.
really okay." So fast forward 25 years. My One of my best friends, Gloria Hardiman, alligator recording artist. You want to look her up on YouTube. She said, "Well, I was telling her the story. She said, "Well, I'm like best friends with Jimmy Carter, who was the lead singer of the Blind Boys of Alabama for like 50 years, and not the president, different guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, I told him your story and he wants to meet you. And I had dinner with them before a show and got to know them a little bit. And just like then 2 years went by. Then I was playing at the Mississippi Valley Blues Fest in the 10th stage, delivering Healing with the Blues, bringing that full circle. I just performed there again this year, and I just had dinner with the Blind Boys of Alabama on Saturday.
Wow.
Again, and went to their performance. Another healing. I'm telling you,
That's amazing.
when you open yourself and you allow and you keep looking for the good, you can have amazing serendipitous situations like that happen in your life.
Yes. Oh my goodness. That
Grief
is so.
is a doorway. Grief is a doorway to deeper healing. Grief is a doorway to deeper healing.
Oof, that's so good. If we allow it to be, that's the thing. We're talking about allowing. We have to allow it to be and
You
not
gotta let it
resist
happen.
it. Yes, not resist it. That's so true. The question for today that I have for all of you watching is, what has grief taught you? Because grief can be our greatest teacher if we allow it to be. So please share with us in the comments what grief has taught you. And I'm going to pop up an image that I have an AI image generator create for me that represents the emotion of the day. And so I want to pop that up and full screen it. And it's always so accurate. This thing blows my mind how accurate it is. But let's take a look at that real quick. And, I'm looking at this now. This is what we know to be grief. Like, totally. Look at the dripping. Look at the
fracturing.
person. Yes, the fracturing. But after talking with you today, Tanya, I'm thinking it can be a happy thing. Like, it can lead to so many bigger things in our lives.
So here's what I see with this person here.
Yeah.
I see them standing up with their arms open.
Oh,
out
wow.
of this crouching position, standing up with arms open, saying, yes, I'm ready. I'm ready for the blessings.
Yeah.
Ready for the blessings. It's beautiful.
Yes. Oh, that's so good.
And don't you have to have that experience right there to know how great it is when you allow it to move past you, move through you, and move on?
It's so true. It's like you have to go through this part to be able to experience the other part. It's like a contrast. Like, you don't know light if you haven't experienced dark. So you don't know the end part if you don't experience this and go through this part of it too.
This person stands up, opens their arms up, and has this golden light shining all around them.
Oh, I love that. Oh my gosh, that's so good.
And I'll tell you, I work with people in grief who are stuck in grief, not people who are fresh. And that's important for people to understand, because I know there's going to be somebody like, oh, I know somebody that needs to work with you. Well, that may be true, but it's really important that they go through being able to find for themselves that I'm done with this. I need to be done with this. Yeah. I need to be over, not over it as it didn't happen, but I need to be moving through. Here's something that my father-in-law used to say. He was a pastor. He'd say, we walk through the valley of the shadow of death. We don't pitch a tent and live there.
Oh,
and yes. I added, we go skipping out the other end and whistling a happy tune.
That's so good. Oh my goodness. So if people do want to work with you, get to know you better, and have you help them work through all kinds of things, because you don't just deal with grief, you do all kinds of things.
Oh, yeah, physical stuff too. Yeah.
Yes, because you are a physical chiropractor and you're a soul chiropractor. So you help on all the levels. And I'm so excited to be able to work with you.
Yes. Me too. Me too.
And so is this the best email? I forgot to ask you this
Well, you
beforehand.
can go to
I
the
mean,
quantumhealinginternational.com is my bigger website, and you
okay.
can make appointments to come into the office there. I have a home office in Coralville, Iowa. So if you're in Coralville, Iowa, you can come in
Okay,
or
yeah.
nearby. But you can also make online appointments there too in the energy healing space. You can reach me at Dr. Tanya English at gmail.com is DRTANYA English at gmail.com. And then the healingwiththeblues.com is another website that includes my band. That's where you can read my story. That's where you can see the master classes that we have. We're doing a master class in a couple of weeks called Toxic People, How to Release the Energy Vampires in Your Life. Oh,
Ooh,
it's so cool.
I
What
bet that's
happens?
going to be so
Oh,
good.
here's what happens. They leave.
Yeah.
You haven't even
Yes.
talked to them and they're gone.
They
It's crazy.
disappear. They're just
They do.
gone.
It's perfect for Halloween because it's the energy.
Yeah.
We want to get rid of the energy vampires. Those people that are toxic in your life, that whenever you see them, they just bring you down.
Yeah.
They take your energy, they feed off of you. That's the people that we're going to work with that want to release those people from their life. And
And where can they sign up for that?
they can go to either website,
Okay.
and it should be up now. We'll see what happens.
So
And I
they
can
can go to,
also put it in the comments here. I'll send it to you and you can put it in the comments
okay.
where people
Yeah,
can
that'd
go
be
for
great.
that. Because
So,
it's going to be a fun class. It's free, it's online, and anybody can take it as long as you can get there at 7 p.m. Central.
okay. Yeah. Oh, it sounds so good. I'm going to sign up for that because I
It's
definitely
really
need that in
fun.
my life. Yeah.
It's so fun. I'm telling you, because you get to say all the things you don't want to say out loud. We get to say them.
Oh, so good. And that's so
Mm.
healing too.
It is. It
Oh,
is.
Tanya, thank you so, so much for
So
being here. Oh my gosh. I just cannot tell you how much, what a pleasure this has been to be able to chat with you again. Excuse me, and learn from you and cry with you and all the things. Just
Yeah,
so, so good.
it makes a difference, doesn't it? I mean, you just feel
Yeah.
like a little cleaned out. And
Yeah.
let me tell you, this is what people say when they work with me. I feel so much lighter.
Hmm.
My eyesight's
Yeah.
clearer. Colors are so bright. They feel different. Their pain
Yeah.
is gone. What's causing the pain has been addressed and released. And what flows in? Love, joy,
Yeah.
calm, creativity, peace, all of those wonderful things flow in where you've been holding that negative down.
Hmm. That's
It's
so
really
good.
true.
I'm literally, after I get through with my next appointment, I'm booking my call with you. I'm booking my session with you. I
Yay.
keep telling you I'm going to do this. I'm actually doing it now. So
Yay. I'm going to give you
I,
the link for the landing page so you can check out the class. I think it would be
okay.
so fun for y'all to have this experience of what really happens when we do this. So I'm putting it in this chat here, and you can
Okay.
just go to that link and it'll it'll take you to the place to register.
Okay. Awesome. I will do that. And I will link your Facebook page and your Facebook group in Facebook, on LinkedIn and YouTube. I will
Oh
put
my
them
gosh,
as
you
a
can't swing a
comment.
dead cat without hitting me on the internet. So
All right. I will put all the links, all the places so that you
no
can
dead
find.
cats though, okay?
Right. No,
It's an
no.
expression.
Exactly. Okay, well, that is our time for today. Thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for being here. If you have found it helpful or think it will be helpful for others, please, please share it. We would love for you to share this. If you would like to be a special guest, again, reach out to me. I would love to get you plugged in. And until next time, I'll be back with a new emotion. Bye.